Evening, everybody. Good evening, good evening, good evening again. I just want to thank you guys so much for rocking with your boy on another episode of the Conversation 98, the Conversation 98. So, again, I'm excited again to be here with you today. And like I always do, thank you guys so much for tuning in. It is such a joy uh, to come up here every week. I know everybody watching football, got a lot of stuff going on, but I just want to thank you guys so much for what you do and the continued support. I'm gonna share this a little bit, like I do every week. Make sure you share this. Make sure when you're tuning in, let me know where you're tuning in from, and we just gonna go ahead on and get on into it in a little bit. But again, thank you guys so much because I'm excited. We're on another episode. We're keeping this thing going, keeping this thing moving, and I'm excited for the conversation for tonight. I personally thank you guys so much. It means a lot to me. And I just want to continue on this, what I've been on. I've been highlighting historically Black colleges and universities, HBCUs. And tonight was a little tough because it's a rivalry school, for my beloved Alabama A&M Bulldogs. But I want to pay homage to Alabama State University in Montgomery, Alabama. This week is their homecoming. Right now they're playing Jackson State University. You can check them out on ESPN3. They're playing right now. I wanted to pay. My father got his master's degree from Alabama State. It's located in Montgomery, Alabama, and it was founded in 1867. Currently, they have an enrollment around 5,500 students, and a lot of my classmates went there. A lot of people from my hometown went to Alabama State, and I just want to give them a shout out, pay homage to them, the Alabama State Hornets, ASU Hornets. So shout out to them and what they got going on and what they're doing. And I just wanted to just pay homage to them. We're going to continue to keep this thing going. I'm in the process of trying to get different hats from different HBCUs to pay homage to them. So as many as that I can get my hand on, I'm going to make sure I get it and rep HBCUs on here. But again, thank you guys so much for rocking with your boy. And I'm just excited because tonight's episode is one that I think that is going to hit points that's going to be helpful to some. And I know it's football season in full flex, but hey, we're gonna keep this thing going. Again, man, I want to shout out to back home. There's a lot of things, the community back home. Very proud of my community back home. I've been seeing a lot of stuff throughout back home in Alabama. Been seeing a lot of the community coming together, supporting the community. Been seeing a lot of new leadership being put in place and things are happening. I'm very proud of that, and I just want to take the time to shout out to them. But again, Alabama State, shout out to them this week. I say that, but again, want to get into the show, man. Tonight's show is a good one. We're on episode 108, 108. That's episode 108. So we've been going strong right now for 2 years now. So thank God for the vision. Thank God for just being able to continue this thing going strong. But again, I want to talk about tonight episode, and tonight is talking about the dangers of letting a sense of entitlement destroy the things you're already blessed with. And I say that again, and the dangers, we're talking about the dangers of letting a sense of entitlement destroy the things that you're already blessed with. And some of the dangers with that is there are a lot of things in that we have in our lives that are easily taken for granted. And those things that are easily taken for granted are those things that have been, right? Things that we can depend on, things that are always there. And a lot of times what we find is we find ourselves taking those things for granted because we know they're going to be there. And we begin to feel like we're entitled to those things instead of really being grateful and appreciative of the consistency of those things. And sometimes it's dangerous when we allow ourselves to let that sense of entitlement come in, where we take things for granted. And it's dangerous because I would tell you, we lose a lot of stuff because we take it for granted and don't appreciate it. Right? We lose a lot of things in our life because we take those things for granted and we don't appreciate it. There are many people in our lives that if we examine our lives and if we examine the people or the things in our lives, that we can always depend on, like a mother's love or a mother's support, or the a consistency of a provider, or the just having that emotional support, or friend that you can call on. And we have those people in our lives. So many times we will just live life and just keep going and living, that we will forget to take the time to say, you know what, I appreciate them. I thank them for what they do. I appreciate them for making a meal for me. I appreciate them for considering me over themselves. They didn't have to do it. So just take the time to say, hey, I appreciate you. Because when we don't do that, we're taken for granted, and we feel like they do that. And realistically, they don't. A lot of the things they don't have to do, we just expect people to do it. And because we expect people to do it, what they end up doing is it erodes the very efforts that people do for us. It does. And I would tell you, nobody likes, I don't say nobody likes, people generally don't do things for recognition. They don't do things for you to just praise them all the time. Oh, thank you for everything you do for me. I don't think people are motivated by that. But I guarantee you, everybody is motivated to feel appreciated for their efforts. I can guarantee you that. And what happens is this, right? When you're especially like when you're going hard and you're doing things and you're putting in the effort, and nothing ever seems to be right, or nothing ever seems to be appreciated, or the efforts never seem to be just saying, hey, thank you for what you do, it can erode on you. It can erode on you. It can erode on you in a space to where it eats away at your efforts, because you start to feel like you're being used. And when you start to feel like you're being used, then you don't feel appreciated. And when you don't feel appreciated, it becomes harder and harder and harder to make that conscious choice to sacrifice. It does. And by that conscious choice, by having to fight through that hardship of sacrifice, what that does, it takes away so much. And this is the thing, right? This is the thing. When somebody have to fight through the continually feeling underappreciated, or feeling like they're taken for granted, right? When somebody have to consistently fight through that, right, it erodes away at many of the relationships that those people have. It erodes away at that relationship, because now you begin to question how that other person values you. And we understand that life happens. We understand that things happen. We understand that we work, and we get tired, and we have obligations. We understand those things. But being appreciative and being grateful doesn't cost you anything to do, but it will cost you everything. Choose not to appreciate and show that gratitude to others that are consistently providing for you. That's why I say it's dangerous to get a sense of entitlement, because that entitlement come in with, oh, we know they always going to be there, instead of really appreciate what they do while they are there, while they are in your life. Because this is the thing, right? The things about it is, there are a lot of people that have good people in their life. There's a lot of people that have good people in their life, but they end up losing them because they don't want to take the time to appreciate it. They just take them for granted for what they do. They know what they taking them for granted. They straight up like, well, they always gonna provide for me. They always gonna pay my bills. They supposed to do this. And a lot of kids have this mindset. A lot of spouses have this mindset. A lot of people in relationship, you always can depend on somebody to be there for you, but can they depend on you to be there for them in the same capacity? Because many times they can't. And it is a dangerous place to get there and not check ourselves, to get to a space where, you know what, and start being accountable and start just being appreciative. Just start doing small gestures to say, hey, thank you. Hey, I appreciate what you do. Thank you for considering me. Hey, thank you for making my breakfast. Thank you for folding my clothes. Hey, you didn't have to do that. I appreciate you. Thank you. That will go a long way. But sadly, many of us choose not to even consider that, not to even think about that. And we just be like, well, they supposed to. They just supposed to do that. And that's not the right thing or the right place to be or the right mindset to have. And the reason why it's not the right mindset to have is of this simple fact, right? It's not the right mindset to have Because when you allow entitlement to come in, the thing that happens with that is, excuse me, when we allow entitlement to come in and settle into our hearts, especially with those people in our lives that we can depend on, even on our or in our relationships, in all walks of life, in our friendships, when we allow entitlement to come in, that is so dangerous because it can erode relationships that are meant to be a lifetime. But those relationships turn into a seasonal relationship, all because we couldn't just take the time and deal with it and check ourselves and hold ourselves accountable for allowing ourselves to just take for granted the consistency of those that are in our lives or what they bring to us. And it's a dangerous place to be. But many of us, just because we always get it, we feel like we're entitled to it because guess what? Well, they do it anyway. And then watch this. What we end up doing too is we justify us not giving our part and doing what we're supposed to do. We justified it. We're justified by us not fulfilling our role in their lives. We're justified it by their actions. And then what we end up doing is we end up, this is a funny thing. It is funny how people who get a sense of entitlement like to hold those other people that they take for granted to an unrealistic standard that they don't even hold themselves. And the reason why they hold that unrealistic standard is because that's a way that they can feed their own ego and convince themselves that they are justified for not appreciating what they get by justifying what they're not willing to do for the other person. And they go by that and they live by that code because guess what? It makes them, it eliminates their sense of accountability. Because honestly, they don't want to be held accountable. They just want their way. And it's dangerous. That's why I said it's dangerous because a lot of people miss out and push away their own blessings in their lives that God sent to be there for in their lives to help them through certain things. They push it away all because they become entitled and they are not appreciative of the people and the efforts of the people that are in their lives. They're not appreciative. And it's a dangerous thing, a dangerous place to be at, a dangerous space to be at. And the reason why that is dangerous, and the reason why I'm telling you that it's dangerous to be in that space is because, right, we begin to, we will alienate ourselves from the people that are meant to be in our lives if we allow entitlement to come in and erode the trust or erode those relationships, right, that God has sent into our lives to be a blessing to uplift us, to be a blessing to help us overcome certain things, to be a blessing or be a source that we can leverage and lean on so that it can take us to that next level. That's why it's dangerous, and we have to hold ourselves accountable, and we really have to address it. Like we got to look in the mirror and be like, hey, look, you have to it. You have to be deliberate in your appreciation of those that are a blessing in your life. You just can't take it for granted. You got to say, even when you don't feel like it, even when you're tired from your job, even when this, that, and the third, you have to be deliberate. You have to say, hey, look, I'm going to purposely appreciate those people. I'm going to do it on purpose. I'm going to reach out to them. I'm going to express those things. And I would tell you, for example, my mom been living last year, right? And my mom, every day she would ask me, hey, Robert, what do you want to eat? Are you hungry? Just her considering me and making sure that I'm eating, I make sure that I always express to her, that I always tell my mom, thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. And I tell my mom that the reason why I tell my mom that is because she doesn't have to do what she's doing. She's doing it because she's expressing her love for me. And because she's expressing her love for me, right? What I do is I purposely make it, and I am intentional about expressing my appreciation. And the reason why I am intentional is because I can come home every day to a cooked meal, and I can expect it, and it can become expected of my mom to do that. But what if she don't? Then what? How I be feeling a certain type of way? No. I recognize the effort. When she don't have to, I recognize the effort. So I am intentional about showing her appreciation. And I do that in every way that I can. I do that to show that I appreciate the things that she do for me. Now, that's just an example, right? And my mom, she's tuning in right now. She asked me how I'm doing. Well, mom, and she said, "You're welcome." No, you're welcome. I appreciate you. I genuinely do, right? Because we, and this is the thing, right? We as people, we severely undervalue the power of a thank you, the power of, hey, I appreciate you, the power of, hey, thank you for everything you do, the power of an acknowledgement. You know, a lot of people would take affirmation as some people mistake affirmation as validation, and it's not the same. And I don't want you to think affirmation, affirming somebody, is a way where that you have to validate them. No, you affirm them because you are showing that you appreciate them for the things that they do. You affirm the things that you see in them. That's a force multiplier in people. And a lot of people don't understand the value of a simple thank you, because guess what? They are too self-centered. And it's hard for them to recognize that, guess what? It's not about me. They will turn around and try to make it that you seeking validation, and they will look at your desires of, and one of the love language, the 5 love languages, the words of affirmation, right? And with the words of affirmation, right, it's words of affirmation. You're affirming a person. Hey, thank you. Good job. I appreciate you, right? And that those positive speaking words and how those words goes a long way. I don't care who anybody is, right? You can, and this is the thing though, right? It's a struggle for some people. It is, I acknowledge that. It's a struggle for some people to simply be appreciative, because they grew up in an environment to where they saw how people was appreciative of other people. They just grew up in an environment to where you should know because of what I do. And that's not a natural thing. You should just know. No, we are beings where we communicate, right? And just because you didn't grow up in an environment where you knew how to communicate, you have to be that cannot be a crutch or an excuse for you not to learn how to show appreciation or express appreciation, right? Because when you don't learn how to express appreciation to other people, it begins that people can feel taken advantage of or taken for granted. Oh, and it can come off as a sense of entitlement. And that's why it's so important that we acknowledge our behaviors and address that, because you may not be entitled, but just because you don't know how to communicate, you got to work on it, and you got to put the work to change that. You have to. We can't just blame that on somebody else. We got to take ownership of ourselves and what we do, the things that we do, our behavior, right? And by taking advantage of or taking an examining our behavior, right? That kind of like what I talked about that last week. We take ownership, and when we begin to take ownership, what that start doing is it start to help us manage not taking allowing that sense of entitlement to come in. Because the reality is this: nobody owes you anything. Nobody owes you anything. Nobody owes you nothing. They don't owe you anything. And when people do things for you, you should be appreciative of it. And I can look at it where, you know, it can be like with kids. A lot of kids be like, well, I ain't asked to come here, right? I got it. You may not ask to come here. But at the end of the day, you need to appreciate the efforts of what, if your parents are there for you and they're supportive of you, you need to appreciate that. Because most of the time, the reason why it's hard for people to appreciate things is because they never had to experience the lack or not having that they always had in their life. And that's why it's so hard for them. That's why it's so hard for them, because they never had to go back. So know what to not have. So it's for you to learn about other people, appreciate what you have, losing what you have and not having it. I will tell you, it is so much easier to do that. It is. Now, you can choose yourself. Some people like to learn the hard way. But you know the saying they saying, and that saying says this, right? That saying state that you don't miss your water until your well run dry, right? You don't miss your water till your well run dry. But the problem is, if you've been paying attention to your well the whole time and doing proper maintenance, you would have put things in place for that well not to run dry. And you won't be sitting here now in a crisis because you don't have the thing that you consistently had before, but now you don't have it. And now the reality set in that, dang, I had a good thing, but I ain't appreciated. I would tell you, my granddaddy used to say something. He said, payback is hell when it ain't in money. and that thing right there is something serious. He said, payback is hell when it ain't in money. And that is a very, and the reason why it is because many a times the reality set in that we have allowed entitlement to come in to destroy those very things that we were blessed with, right? And a lot of those things is not the money, it's those relationships, it's those dependable relationships that we destroyed. Is that covering or the consistency of provision. It's that support, having somebody there, that unyielding support that's already there, that encouraging word, right? It's that having somebody that you can depend on to be there for you, to watch your kids, but you didn't value that relationship and you didn't take that time, or you took your parents for granted for watching the grandkids all the time when you wanted to go turn up, right? But you lost it because you did the things to destroy it. And it ain't on nobody else. That's on you. And I would tell you, like my granddaddy said, that those lessons are hard lessons to swallow. Those are very hard lessons to swallow. Those are very hard lessons to take on and to take ownership of, because now we have to deal with the person in the mirror, because we are the ones that cause that erosion. We are the ones that cause that to fade away. We are the ones responsible for that, all because of our inaction to appreciate. And it's easy to allow entitlement to come in, but it's also easy to be appreciative. And we just have to be deliberate about it. We have to be deliberate about appreciating those people or those things in our lives that are really a blessing. Then, like I said, that entitlement will destroy a lot of things. There's a lot of entitled husbands out there that are entitled for their wives to do everything for them. They're entitled that their wives will cook, clean, work, take care of the kids, wash their clothes, and the only thing they got to do is pay a few bills and pay the bills. They take them for granted. And their wives and their spouses, and they go through years of that. And they go through years and years and years of that. And it breaks them down on the inside because they suffer in silence, because the person that they are committed to can't even get their heads out of their 4-point of contact and show a level of appreciation to them. They won't do it. So they suffer in silence. And a lot of them, it takes a lot out of them. And they'll destroy the very blessing. And then when that blessing walks away or separates from them, then now they want to act like they the victim, want to take ownership for their inaction. And I would tell you, this thing right here is something where it can really get down to the small things. And it's not the big things. It don't take much. I'm telling you, I don't care what anybody say. It does not take much to appreciate those people in your life that are truly there in your lives. It don't take much. It don't. The problem is this. People choose to be to do for or appreciate whomever they want to. People choose to do that. They do that all day, every day. They choose to do that. And guess what, right? They choose to do that because guess what? When you are consistent and people know that, and it's sad, but sometimes you got to cut people off for them to realize exactly what they got with you. And it's sad because really, honestly, if I have to do that, then in my mind, you done lost me anyway. Because if I'm there and I'm genuinely there for you, you should appreciate the effort. And I should not have to even ask for that same energy to be given back to me at all. Good evening. How you doing? How you doing? She said it came. Yep. She said I came in at right at the right time. Said for the man in the back. Yeah. So and watch this, right? There's a lot of people now that are living a life of regret, and they are too prideful to say that I messed up. I messed the good thing that I had up because I took that good thing for granted. I ain't say perfect thing. I said I took that good thing for granted. And I would tell you, it is a dangerous thing to live a life of regret, all because you didn't honor what you had. And by living that life of regret because you didn't honor what you had, it's so much stuff that you become those that learn from it really appreciate their second chances. But it's those that still prideful and they act like there ain't nothing happened. Those ones who never take accountability for their action. They just won't. But I tell you, man, it's some people out there struggling. They struggling because guess what? They messed up. They messed up. They messed up. Wow. She said that would be Mr. Neal. We are divorced after 17 years. I would tell you, and with this, man, and my prayer with this is reconciliation doesn't mean reconnection. I'll say that again, right? Reconciliation does not mean reconnection. And too many times we expect when we start this and all this, right? We start to think that when somebody talking about reconcile, that we have to come back together. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I am talking about is there's a lot of people that has to go reconciliation, but they're afraid to go through the process of reconciliation because in their mind they're thinking that if I reconcile, I have to reconnect. You don't have to reconnect. What I am saying is reconcile it is okay to get peace, to make peace in that situation. It is okay to acknowledge that, hey, I was wrong. It is okay to take ownership for the actions and the role that you played, because most of the time you can't move on until you reconcile. I didn't say reconnect, because now you cannot move on until you reconcile. And the reason why I say you can't move on until you reconcile is when you reconcile, right? That allows you to put that baggage down at that point, and it frees you up from taking that baggage into the next thing. Because sometimes, right? Sometimes we have to realize some doors are closed and that are allowed to be reopened, and some doors are closed and you can't walk back through it. And it's okay. And those are hard lessons to learn, to let that key go to that door. Because a lot of us, we hold on to that key hoping because in ourselves. But at the end of the day, you will get a peace about it, right? But I would tell you, don't sit around here. Don't sit around here waiting or hoping or being afraid to forgive and move on because you thinking that if I reconcile, I got to reconnect. Nah. That's not true. I don't know who that's for, but I wasn't even planning on talking about that. That was just dropped in my spirit as I was talking. And I hope that was a blessing to you. Reconciliation does not mean reconnection. It does not. But that reconciliation is a process. It's a part of the process of forgiveness and healing so that you can be made whole and you can move on, right? Because reconciliation forces you to deal with you. Reconciliation forces you to deal with you, because when we don't go to reconcile, we'll have the mindset of wanting the other person to make amends for what they did to us, but not take ownership of the role we played in it. And not saying that the role you played in it was either quote unquote worse or worse than the other person, but we play a role in it. We play a role in it. So we have to look at what did I do, right? And now I know, so I can take ownership of that And part of my healing is me reconciling and even sometimes going back and apologize. And I would tell you that was part of my process and my healing process when I had to forgive and when I had to be reconciled. It wasn't a reconnection, but I had to go back and take ownership of the role I played, even though I did not feel that I did anything wrong, quote unquote wrong. But I had to take it. I had to take ownership of my actions and the things that I did that enabled certain things or that contributed to certain things. And by me taking ownership of that, I would tell you that really freed me to put down a lot of baggage that I know for a fact I would have carried on over into something new because I was holding on to that. I want somebody else to take ownership of my role. No. So I would tell you it is a dangerous place to allow a sense of entitlement to come in, because it can destroy the very things that you are blessed with. And I would tell you, a blessing from God, the Bible says a blessing has no sorrow, right? And when we say a blessing has no sorrow, right, I think a lot of things that we say, but that doesn't mean that you don't have to work to maintain the blessing. So just think about that. Think about that. And this is what I found, right? I found this out, right? I found this out. Excuse me. A blessing, most of the blessings that we find that God blesses us with in our lives are not in the end state, or it is not in the end state. It is not in the blessing. A house, I don't consider a house so much unless somebody just give me a house, but the house I would consider to be an end state. The blessing comes in the ability to get a house. The skills or the job or those ability to get that, right? Some of us have the ability, and I'm just using this as an example. Some of us have the ability to do things, but we lack the work and the discipline to enable us to get it. So because we don't have it, we'll feel like we're not blessed. No, what it is I got to be more disciplined. I have to do some work, right? Because God has gifted me with the ability, and that's the blessing. And I think we have, as a church, especially the Christian church in America, we have did this prosperity thing where we made the end state or the things or the objects, the material things, we made those like blessing. But no, a real blessing is having unwavering support. A real blessing is having somebody that considers you, having somebody that wants your best interest, having people that's there to protect your six or protect your back or have your back. The real blessings of knowing that if you need somebody to call somebody, they will be there for you. Another blessing is having somebody there that will always be there for you, regardless of what's going on between you. See, those things are a blessing. A blessing is having good health, to be in your right mind. Those are blessing. A blessing is those things that a lot of things we take for granted. And I look at it, and what made me think about it is the story of Hosea. In the book of Hosea in the Bible, how his wife, right, Gomer, and how she always going out there chasing, and how Hosea had to keep going back out there and getting his wife and doing all those things to get his wife back, even though his wife wasn't faithful to him. And that made me think about how much we take God for granted, and how we have a sense of entitlement for just waking up in the morning and not even just being appreciative for the opportunity that he give us. Or those things where, you set an alarm clock or you forget to set your alarm clock and you wake up right at the time that you need to wake up, and not just saying thank you. Those are things that we take for granted. And I'm just using God as an example because that's something that I do all the time, and I have to check myself. I'm not allowing myself to feel like I'm entitled to get up in the morning. And I get reminded all the time that, hey, as a young man, in my early 40s, there's people that ain't waking up, or people younger than me that ain't where I'm at right now. So I don't take that lightly. I don't take that for granted. And one thing I would say is this, right? Even with that, it makes me be humble to the space to where I have to consistently make myself accountable to be appreciative of the things and the people in my life. And as we sit down and reflect, I just ask you, take inventory of the relationships you have in your life and the relationships with those people that you can depend on. Push, come, and shove. You call, they'll be there for you. Now, the question that I ask, are you giving them that same energy? And this ain't one that I'm asking you to just to say, but are you giving them, can they get the same thing from you can they get from you what you are getting from them? I'm talking about without effort, without complaining, without coming up with an excuse, right? So that's something to think about. And I pray, that this was helpful tonight. Again, man, go check me out, man. I'm on the Conversation 98 on here, Facebook. I'm also the Conversation 98 on YouTube, the Conversation _98 on TikTok, and the Conversation 98 on Instagram. So go check your boy out, man. Support the page, like that. Make sure you share this. Let people know. Let me know where you tune in at. And hey, go and subscribe to me. Go to my channels. I appreciate you trying to take this thing to another level. And hey, to God be the glory. To God be the glory. Thank you again for rocking with your boy. You guys have a great and wonderful evening. God bless.